Hey guys, I'm not in this episode. Frank has locked me in a cellar. But if we sell enough merch at PoddyC.com, then I can come back for the next episode. So everybody, please, I need help. Buy all of our merch, please. Thank you. Now for the episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 86 of the PoddyC. I know this is normally where you hear the esteemed Dratnos, but he is away at, I think, TwitchCon this week. So we have a guest to hopefully try to replace him. We tried really hard. We got Meeres here. He's a many-time Race World First champion, multiple-time MDI champion. Did some MDI sixth man stuff, which was kind of cool, kind of a like unique perspective. I get asked about that kind of stuff a lot. But just overall, like really smart WoW guy. I think also were you the first or maybe the only person to do every single mage tower when they like re-released that?
I don't know if it was exactly the first, but really early on. Yeah, like I think I was the worst that tweeted about it, but maybe I think there was some rumors about someone doing it before me. Yeah, I mean, hey, I was exactly.
That's the biggest accolade, in my opinion.
Yes, of course.
Tower champion.
Long-time WoW player, loves the game, and plays all different facets of it. So glad to have you on.
Hello. Thank you for letting me join you guys today.
Meeres, I was going to ask, are you still six-manning for Holy Method?
No.
No? Oh, so you're not involved this time around. Okay.
No, I will be just watch potting, and that's it, I guess.
Amen, same.
Nothing. Not worth the effort for 6-man, basically, if it's not a like full committed job or whatever. So yeah, not doing anything.
Yeah, that makes sense. That seems to be the only way that it would ever make sense. Is like if you guarantee you're winning, and it's like, is the prize money even worth spending that much time not playing the game? And it just never seems like it would make that much sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's also the team would want to split the not so much money again with another guy as well, right? So yeah, it's also not too incentivized by the teams playing or whatever to get someone that is there full time and get also like a high pay, I guess, in some sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I think a lot of people who listen to this know who Meeres is. I'm actually kind of interested in just hearing your general like reaction to like everything that's happening in Midnight right now. Maybe more so along the like, well, there's two major things I think for us is like the first tier of this upcoming Race World First is going to be just so interesting and different. And I think that's a little bit less important, but something that I think you will have a unique take on, but also just like the add-on situation. As like a top player, it's just so crazy. Like where do you stand with all of that?
Yeah, especially because we haven't talked about this yet. Like we've had the SCARIZARD episode, and before that, we didn't even like hear about the whole add-on news yet. So I'm actually curious to hear your thoughts on it, Meeres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not. I think I'm a little bit more on this side that I don't mind add-ons going away personally, but I also feel like that some things could have at least stayed a little bit. I don't know, after like talking with some add-ons people. Also, I'm not 100% sure what exactly is possible anymore and what not. But I've heard many things that are not possible that I would like to have. But I think the biggest thing is for me, I think Vigoro's gone is actually not a big issue personally, because many things can be replaced. The cooldown manager, I mean, surely Blizzard hopefully fixes some things with it, but works in most of the cases or whatever. And I think they're adding some buff tracking, they said, and debuff tracking to some degree.
Did they say that?
Yeah, apparently they said that. That's what I got told, but I don't know if that's 100% true. But if they fix that, and I think maybe also add some glow to this cooldown tracker, I mean, hopefully they work on it. I think they have like all the add-on developers screaming at them what would be cool, I guess. But I think which is like a weird thing for me is like the customization of the UI, like just UI elements going away this heavily is really strange sometimes. Like I was rebuilding my UI a little bit, and like the unit frame and the target frame just look very horrible, and you can't do anything. I just have this huge dragon and this huge icon of the boss, and then like the small HP bar and the boss frames, especially the boss frames from Blizzard are from 2000, and they're probably from beta, I think. And that's what you need to live with, right? And that's really bad, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, but generally, I'm in favor of removing add-ons and making the game more non-add-on super heavy, because I also don't think it's too big of a deal for the race. Many things were just solved with Vigoros for us, right? Like we were just sitting there, and the Vika was telling us, "Oh, we need to go everywhere." And I think with the latest raid bosses or whatever, it was also possible to do most of the mechanics without any with any Vikaras or whatever. And I think it was also the design, right? I think in Dimensions, the only Vikara we used to assign stuff was in the first phase. I forgot the mechanic I was called. When you flew up into the sky, we had someone being
Reverse
assigned
gravities,
to
yeah.
the reverse gravity, someone assigned to go on the marker, and the rest was just free. But to be honest, the excluded was been solved in many different other ways, like where you had an internal priority system on the side, like you would do it on Final Fantasy, or some other ways where you would have seen it. And the rest was all just done on a spreadsheet or somewhere, and then you could play the boss completely fine, right? Same with Gallywix, but I mean, I guess Gallywix was less difficult as well, right? But
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the more reasonable takes that's been going around, because a lot of people have been super hyperbolic about this on either end, where they're like mega anti add-on or mega pro add-on, where it's like, oh no, how could you possibly do anything without add-ons? But yeah, like I actually agree with you for the most part. So something that I've been saying is this needed to happen sooner or later, because it's becoming a growing problem, especially in the higher end scene. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's been my take, that they needed to do this eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I think the stuff's generally been pretty good. He hit on something pretty interesting, which is like, I'm in favor of this stuff going away. And I think a lot of the public perception I've seen is like these top end players and guilds, like they rely on this stuff and they want this stuff. The reason they're removing it is for like the new player. They're trying to get the new player into WoW. But I think it's been lost that actually a lot of the like top players in this game, for what it's worth, that's not the only opinion that matters, but we have been like, this stuff is super annoying, right? Also, I think one thing that is often missed is like, oh, well, what's going to change? They've made really, really good and hard end bosses without really the need for weak auras. I think that can get kind of mixed up a lot of places, because some people turn on a Race to World First POV and they see an entire UI made of weak auras, and you're like, look at all this stuff that's there. But most of it is so not essential, personal preference, aesthetic, or like customizable UI things. It's not like, as people say, playing the game for you, doing the fight for you. There have been weak auras that have been completely essential to killing bosses. There's plenty of cases like that. But most of the hardest bosses ever had none of those mechanics. I think the thing this really helps is Blizzard fight designers can now actually, I think, should be able to make significantly better encounters. And the reason why is I think there's so many times what has had to have happened is they come up with some great mechanic, and then one of his colleagues just like comes over and is like, he's telling him about it or her about it, and they're just saying, that's awesome, but they're going to write a weak aura that just instantly solves that, and this thing that would have otherwise been a really cool problem solving process is just not going to exist, and it's only going to be like a form of friction. It's like, oh well, our weak aura doesn't work this pull, so I guess we just wipe, which are, by the way, some of the most demoralizing, annoying wipes ever.
And that happens
so
every
bad.
tier.
Yeah, dude. You think it's bad for like guilds just downloading a pack and it not working? Imagine like the troubleshooting process for getting it to work for the first time. You know, there's like so much time we spend outside of the race even happening, and then you're in the race and you're competing, and all of your time is like crazy important, and then it's just like, well, we just wiped because something didn't sync up. It's like, it's so bad.
I mean, think about how bad it is for the normal player too, because like you're out here, you only have 3 hours that night for progression. You show up, the weak auras are all fucked, so you're spending like a solid 15 minutes.
It's
just
more
like,
of a percentage of your time.
Yeah, and you're just like
could be true.
configuring the whole weak aura and stuff, and it's like, bro, like these guys have very limited time to play. Like this is the time we get to play WoW, and you're just not even actually playing the game, and you're just trying to figure out how to get a weak aura working. It's just super frustrating and annoying.
Well, also you're mentioning, you know, what I meant more by that is like, for you all, it's not working is usually like a version issue. Like two people have two different versions and the assignments are wrong. For us, it's like there's a lot of wipes where the entire thing just isn't functional. Like the way we've made it, or something has changed, or it's just literally broken and it has to be fixed, rather than like a version thing. So there's much more points of failure basically before other people get the finished product, which is just something as like a raid leader or a player, the feeling of like, I want to pull, but like we just can't play until this thing is created, has just been so so bad, and that being gone just sounds amazing. But yeah, you're
Yes.
right. At the cost of, okay, well now I can't like see my buffs where I want to, or I can't separate my energy bar from my health bar, or there's just this UI has to come so far from what it is right now in what it seems like, nothing official, but it really seems like this expansion's coming out like really early next year. So there's not a lot of time to get this done. And that's just I feel like anyone who is, I don't know if they can get this done in time. I think that's a valid concern. Like if you're like low key freaking out, like the UI that we will be able to play with at the beginning of this expansion might be like really not prepared. I don't know. That could be the case.
Isn't that insane to think about though? Like I feel like that's a perfectly reasonable take to have because of how much Blizzard has failed us in the past. But like, isn't that crazy to think that Blizzard themselves, multi-billion-dollar company, and they have like tons of people working on this, it can't possibly figure this out in like a 4-month time frame? Because I mean, so I guess we talk a little bit about Fellowship later, but like I feel like it's the requirement is not that high. They don't need that much for the game to be functional, at least not as much as people make it out to be. Because like I've heard people going around, like I've talked with a bunch of friends and just like my chat and stuff about how like, we need Omni CD, we need to be able to like track this and that, and like we need to be able to see every single buff possible, etc. It's like we don't really need all this stuff. It's kind of like what Meeres was saying earlier, how like not all this stuff was required to like do most of the game. And in fact, I would say like, for a large part of when M plus and when raiding became hard, people didn't rely on all these different tools to play the game. And I think a lot of players are stuck in this mindset that like, oh, without this, then we can't possibly do this. Or like, the problem I see with the game is there's too much perfect knowledge with all the add-ons and weak ores that people are coming up with, which leads to perfect play required. And I think that just makes the game a lot less fun when you're expected to play the game perfectly, where you have to get every single kick and stop on every single mob, and you have to make sure you have every single defensive planned and has to be like perfectly used, or it just becomes too convoluted, and it just hasn't been very fun, especially at the high end.
No, I definitely think that's the case, especially for like, I guess I was mainly speaking from the Raider POV as well, but I think in M plus what you're saying is it is an issue, right? You have all the Vigorous telling you, like just from the 5 years of me making MDI Vigorous, they have evolved like crazy. I don't know, 4 years ago or something, I made the cast bars that were telling you what you were targeted with.
Yeah.
And just alone that was like the most OP thing ever. And then it evolved into telling you fat on the screen, shadow melt icon, or like when you, I don't know, I made Vigorous with conditions where you were getting like targeted by a motherload beam and the other guy was casting at you, and you were, I don't know, sub 75%, was showing you shadow melt icon so you don't get a one shot on some key level, right? And I mean, that will not be possible anymore. And if they keep designing the dungeons in a way where you need to somehow see these things to do the highest keys or whatever, I mean, that would be an issue, I think. In general, M plus add-on removal is probably way more impactful than rating removal, because rating removal is really straightforward. You know what the bosses do. You're fighting a constant NPC that always does the same. When M plus, it's just full shambles. When you pull like an extra pack, you see 5 different casters. You don't have nameplate colors. I think that's like one of the things. Before we started the podcast, I was complaining to Dorki about like nameplate colors is a thing that it's just very good in M plus, and in rating, I mean, it's irrelevant most of the time. So it's, I think there's many things in M plus, especially, which I guess is also valid that many people complain, because M plus is what most people play, right? People rate a little bit, but 95% of the players play M plus for the rest of the WoW game time, right? And I think for that, it hurts a lot more, definitely, especially like the tracking and, like you said, like super crazy advanced stuff going away, and you're not getting anything in return.
But I think it's a good thing. Like removing that perfect information just means that Blizzard has to do harder to design the game properly. Because I mean, like, yeah, on one hand, as a player, you would think, oh, now that we don't have this, we're just gonna die to everything, right? Except like, well, what's realistically gonna happen? Realistically, what's gonna happen is if Blizzard sees that people are just not able to overcome this pack or this dungeon or like this very specific part of the game, then surely they will try to address or do something about it right away, right? And I mean, that's how
You're
the game
right.
has been designed for the longest time. So I do think it's an unnecessary concern at times.
Well, yeah, I mean, naturally, what people are doing is this actually perfect example. This happened last week where a Wowhead data mined new crest costs. This isn't like a conversation pivot, but like they data mined that crests are going to like have scaling upgrade costs up to 6 on the upgrade track, and it's more later than at the beginning. And technically, it's like doubling the total investment from getting a piece from 1 to 6. But very important is data mined. It wasn't a Blizzard post. It was you don't know what the crest economy is going to be, right? So like you only know half of the situation. You only know what stuff's going to cost. You have no idea how much you're going to get. Clearly, there's a new system involved. They're going to have to make a post about it and clarify it, whatever. But people were just like, well, if I just apply how it is now to that, it would feel bad. It's like, well, yeah, but you have no idea if that's actually going to be the case, right? You know half of the information. It's the same thing with dungeons, right? People are looking at what is going to be available to them in the expansion, and they're comparing it to the dungeons they're doing right now. They're like, these dungeons I was doing right now without the access to this information, there would just be a little too much going on. And like it's like, yeah, but clearly they're going to have to create dungeons differently. There's no interrupt tracker. Okay, they added 3 seconds to like most interrupt lockouts in PvE. And they mentioned in multiple interviews that like, okay, well, we want to have way less casts in a pack. If a mob previously were to cast and put up a purgeable dispel or whatever, a purgeable debuff, it's just going to put out that debuff without a cast now. So there's less, we think, this speaking as Blizzard, you're going to not need a kick tracker as much because we're going to just lower the amount of things that are actually even kickable on a pull. So something like that is more straightforward without those kind of add-ons, right? So, but I mean, can you really blame people? They don't know that. It's like, okay, Blizzard says they're going to do that. How many times have they said they're going to do that and then they don't, or don't do it well? Like, yeah, at the beginning of this next season, when it comes to like creating content and we have all this stuff taken away, there's certainly going to be some potentially rocky moments.
Yeah,
growing pains. Yeah, where they are asking you to do something that you don't have the tools to do, or they've taken away so much complexity that it doesn't even feel like the same game, right? Like you could go both ways with it.
No, yeah, I think that is like 100% reasonable. Like I also think that there's a very high chance Blizzard fucks this up. Well, by fuck this up, I mean like there's gonna be problems in the game and growing pains, but we have to look at what the vision is rather than what actually will happen. Because yeah, like let's take the most extreme example, right? Like let's use the most extreme example of they just remove interrupts entirely from the video game. Then what's gonna happen? Like, well, are we just always just gonna die to like bolts and casts going off? Well, I mean, clearly, if that's gonna happen, then surely Blizzard is gonna do something about it, right? Like, there's no way they're just gonna sit there and see that like the completion rate of a dungeon is like close to 0% and just be like, okay, this is fine, and just like let it all burn. So yeah, I think there's been some unreasonable takes going on about saying how like oh, we need this and that, but I think it's also like reasonable to feel that Blizzard won't be taking the proper steps. Also, by the way, Meeres, I love hearing your opinions on all of this because I think you're one of the only people in the world that has this level of experience when it comes to rating M+ and the whole weak aura management, creation, etc. So
yeah,
you're actually the perfect person to have for this.
I mean, I thought you guys spoke about this a long time ago already because everyone was talking about it. And I was on vacation and the whole world was blowing up about no add-ons.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it yet.
We had like a one that we recorded with SCARIZARD before the alpha. And then we recorded the alpha podcast like on the day. And I remember it wasn't until like that Friday until I think what really set it off was Weak Aura's tweeting like,
oh yeah,
we're dead. Right. Because I think before that point, naturally, everyone was saying, like, oh, well, we're just removing the stuff that's solving stuff on raid bosses. And you're like, okay, everyone agrees with that, by the way. There's like, I literally do not know anyone that's like, that is a good thing, right? It's like kind of objectively bad. So people were like, cool, but at what cost? And no one knew the cost. And then the cost started becoming more relevant, and then it was like a huge like, okay, are we trying to do too much? But I think you mentioned something earlier, Dorki, that was interesting. You said Blizzard has a $1 billion company, like all they have to do is like these small things. So I think or they need to do these things that everyone wants, and like people want Omni CD in the game. You're right. Some of those things aren't needed, but there are things that, in my opinion, like are needed that are not currently in the game. And you're saying like, oh, well, they should just be able to get it done in this amount of time. When we were talking to the add-on people, they were under the impression that the people at Blizzard who are making these add-ons or in-game add-ons is like a team of like 3 to like 5. It's a very
I heard that
small
was
team.
fake ass news. Now I could be wrong, but I swear I remember seeing something where like Ion mentioned we have like 40 plus people working on it. There's conflicting information for sure, but I don't actually know.
Well, who knows how many people they have on it, but they are trying to create like new raid frames, cooldown manager, details, big wigs, all into the game, which some of those things have taken small groups of people, 4 to 5 people, large groups of people over the course of like years and years and years and years and years to optimize and create these things. And they're asking those people to do all of that within a couple of months.
Well,
and it's not like they've been working on this for years. He literally said in an interview, like, we just realized recently when we started having this conversation with the community, when Dratnos and I had that talk with him, he said, like, that's only then when we realized the scope of what was going to be taken away and what we needed to actually add into the game. So this is a very recent, like, thing, which I guess maybe if you look at it at that angle, what they've got done in a short amount of time relatively since that conversation is good, and they have a little more time for the expansion. But I still feel like if people are apprehensive of like, hey, I like my UI to look a certain way in this game, and I've gone through the time to make that, I don't know if I'm going to log in on midnight and like enjoy the game as much, because not because I don't have Omni CD, but because like I can't track the buffs the way I want to. I can't track dots the way I want to, that I've gotten used to doing. That's fun for me. And that isn't available in the game or isn't a high enough quality. I think that's a valid concern, because that stuff isn't a high enough quality or literally doesn't exist in the game right now on alpha. And I don't think those are extra, like, this is stuff people have gotten used to with perfect information. That's like basic shit, right? The raid frames are like really bad.
The healers.
Like, yeah, like it's there's a lot to do. Like I would like to think I'm generally on the other side of, like, even when Blizzard does some crazy bad shit, I'm like at least trying to play devil's advocate, because I feel like everyone all the time with Blizzard news is like the world is crumbling, right? Like everything is the biggest deal ever and it's all super negative. And I'm at least, even if I agree with it, I'm like, let's try to look at this from the other angle. I feel like a lot of people complaining have very valid concerns.
So
personally.
the reason I said all that is because every single add-on or feature that you mentioned is already basically in Fellowship, and this game is like, developed by a couple of people. It hasn't been out for very long, and it has, I want to say, 90% of what I want out of UI customization, etc. And I would be surprised if Blizzard couldn't at least do that. But then again, it is Blizzard we're talking about right here, right? Like, Blizzard has burned us many times. I understand that they don't have
Wait, do we know how long Fellowship has been in development?
I mean,
Like, how many
surely it
people are
can't be
working on
that long. I mean, there's not a lot of people working on it. That's all I know. It's like a very small team. That's why
That's a
I
good
feel like
question,
if
yeah.
they have such a small team that's able to do, I want to say 90% of what I want, I'm sure there's probably some other stuff I would want later down the line as I play this game more, then surely World of Warcraft could do this, right? I don't know.
I mean, I think
Maybe.
the biggest thing I feel like that sometimes happens with the Blizzard or whatever from the recent years is that they just are reluctant to do some things because they feel like people wouldn't want it, and then they don't want to add it, and they're waiting for way too long for people to complain about it and then add it after. I don't know. I feel like they maybe just adding more things and then like turning them off baseline or giving the option to turn them on would be beneficial. But also maybe they just don't have the development time, right? Like, I don't know. It's really weird to see, because right now, like Max also said, like raid frames, for example, as a tank or DPS, I guess they're completely fine. But if you're trying to heal, like I was seeing as a Resto Druid, after 3 buffs, the buffs just go away on the raid frame. Like they just shuffle out, and you have more than 3 buffs, 3 hots as a Resto Druid, and you're just like gonna wing it a little bit and feel who has what hot, I guess. Yeah, when you press some buttons, which is really bad, I think. So it's a very weird dynamic, I guess, which also maybe plays into what some roles want from the game, I guess, right? Like healers want good raid frames, DPSers maybe want good nameplates. The healers don't really care about the nameplates too much. Tanks, I guess I'm not sure. Maybe just cool unit frames. I don't know. I think it's kind of not too many requirements. I think as a tank, but some different aspects of the game require different things, and they all want different things. And Blizzard is like, what are we adding baseline to the game? And I don't know. I would be in favor of just adding more things and just letting the people decide what they want to use. But I've also heard that oftentimes in games or whatever, there is not a thing that they normally do because they much rather have not the things and then see what people want and then add it afterwards. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point because, I mean, they did... Like, there's a good reason why Blizzard went with Scorched Earth approach and then peel back on it, rather than the other way around, which would be to just slowly remove add-on functionality. Because, I mean, like, think about how much of a disaster that would be as a developer if, say, Midnight comes around and they're like, oh, you know, like, we actually don't want this one buff being tracked or whatever it is. And they decide to break that functionality. Well, like, suddenly all the add-ons are just, like, crumbling down like a bunch of dominoes. And it's just going to be, like, a constant back and forth of, like, well, you know, the add-on guys have to figure out how to deal with this new solution. And Blizzard is just trying to constantly peel back on stuff. And I feel like that's going to cause more frustration than just whatever they're doing right now, which is just get rid of as many of as possible and just slowly let players have more and more freedom over what they can control.
Yeah, I think the other side of the argument would be, okay, everyone wants in combat add-ons gone. Like when they had this interview, everyone agrees. And that's, I think, am I wrong in thinking that's like kind of one of the only reasons they're doing this, right? They like in combat add-ons, and I guess maybe the need for a new player to feel like they need to download add-ons before they can realistically play the game well. That's a huge barrier to entry. Seems really bad. But like that's kind of, I guess another angle could have been, I think maybe one thing that seems just actually, I think I kind of agree with this. Like it's all happening a little too fast, right? Like in those interviews, they kind of made it seem like this was going to happen over, you know, potentially a long period of time. And could you have spent more time for a more seamless transition? We do one more season, one more raid with things the way they are, but giving them a lot more time to make sure this stuff is complete. So when you actually have to make this thing, they feel more confident about what you actually have available in game. And to go through this process, I think that's, if I were to criticize the other part of what you were saying, like the other way of like take everything away from it first. I'm not saying you could have not gone as Scorched Earth, but maybe they could have just done that. Like, why does it have to be right now when this stuff isn't even created yet?
When do you think would be the best time? Sorry, go ahead, Meeres.
Well, I had a great take on this before all of this actually got released, because people were like, oh, add-ons might go away. And I was like, yeah, okay, that was my copium as well a little bit. I was like, they will run Midnight normally, like without every add-on and everything is fine. And they're going to have a PTR or whatever running where they have these solutions that they want to put out to no add-ons run, and people can give feedback. I'm sure people would give feedback to this as well. And then over the span of 1 year or 1.5, they would optimize this, make this nice, and it would come out to Last Titan. That was kind of my hope or dream of all of this, because if they would have it out for 1 year in development with community feedback, I'm sure there would be crazy things that, like, everyone would be happy about it. It's releasing much rather than now, where you'd go, nothing is available, and then people log in, and then everything that is there is also not good or broken or not working, right? Then the frustration just ramps up way more than when they pre-announce it and say, okay, you can have time to give feedback, we fix it for you, and then you have a nice transition going into the next expansion, basically.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's what it is. I mean, it's happening, right? So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, all that, you know, would have. I think that's maybe what a lot of the shock was. Is I think partially the shock of on that one Friday is like, oh, this add-on's going away. A lot more is going away than what we thought. But I think it was everyone also collectively realizing at the same time that everyone had assumed it was going to take a lot more time, and they're like, nope, we're doing this like right now. But that's enough about add-ons. Where'd you want to go next, Dork?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to talk about. I mean, I guess the most obvious transition would be to talk about the class changes, right? So, like, because that directly correlates with how the add-ons are being removed. I guess specifically Meeres, since our opinions have already been heard about the whole class simplification stuff. How do you feel about the whole situation, Meeres?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm a little bit conflicted on some fronts, I would say, because I think it is. I mean, I understand that they make certain classes easier, but I also seen many classes lose like all the buttons, and that's just weird, I think. So I would say the idea that they make the game easier and maybe also easier to understand is probably pretty nice. But I don't really think that goes in line with the talent system that they have, where you have 5 million options of whatever you can pick. And now you just pick 50 billion passive options because they remove all the active things. And I mean, that's just also weird because I was looking at my own talent trees and I was like, okay, everything is just passive now. And I just go down the list and I just pick, I guess now I play like this brewmaster that has like all this kicks and I tell it all the things for kick. And then I have 3 buttons to press. I'm like, I guess so. Maybe that's the idea they want, right? I'm not too sure about other classes, of course, especially DPS or whatever. I only heard that Shaman has lost like 14 buttons or something. I saw a graphic somewhere that they lost everything. And I'm like, okay, that's also interesting. So I don't know. But I think generally it doesn't. I understand why they would make classes easier to understand. Some classes are very complex and some are very easy already. But I don't think it goes in line with the talent system and how the game works in general. The game is just way more complex than they try to. Like, I feel like they're trying to make everything easy, but the game is quite complex, especially if you try to min-max it or do high-end gameplay of the game as well, right? So yeah, and then we also get more talent points on the class tree, which makes it even more worse, like in terms of buttons to spec or whatever. Yeah, and I think so far the Apex talents, at least, I don't know for the tanks that are implemented, I mean, they're all just, I guess, there, right? I don't know why they're called the Apex talents. I expected when this was announced some crazy, like a tier set that I can like, or maybe not tier set is maybe the wrong thing, like some new way of playing the class. And the only thing it does, I think on all tanks currently is just like either some random damage, a little bit defensive, or like some proc that I get something, I guess. Yeah, not really anything crazy. It feels like a tier set, I guess. Yeah.
I think it's because they want to add stuff for classes to feel new or unique in the next expansion, but at the same time, they don't want anything that'll be adding too much to the bloat. Because I mean, that's always been the growing problem of a game that's been out for so long. It's the PoE problem, right? It's like, well, you can, like, what are you expecting out of a new expansion? Surely there's like usually new stuff with how your class is engaged with. But if they're just doing this every expansion, then at some point you just become PoE, right? Where you just have systems on systems and procs on procs.
Yeah, you go
and
through
just,
Shadowlands.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's why Dragonflight happened, right? Was because they had done that too many expansions in a row. Yeah, they basically, the other side of it is if they don't announce Apex talents, they feel like they have to do something. Like if they release the expansion and they're not doing any Apex talents, people are like, what the fuck? We don't even get like any new talents or anything. And if you're like super into the game, you're like, maybe that's a good thing, right? Because we don't need more of this to make the game good. But like when you're selling a game and you need something on the box, they just kind of have to put something on there. That's basically what Apex talents are. Just like they had to have something, so that's what Apex talents are.
To be honest, that's a good way to put it. I think, yeah. Same with the Covenant and not Covenant, Covenants. That's Shadowlands, yeah. The hero talents, they also just added 3 passive nodes. Yep. I mean, 3 passive nodes on the side, you just pick them and that's it. So yeah.
Yeah, one thing I would say about the whole class simplification thing is, I know we've mentioned this on our streams before, is a lot of this is extremely overblown. It's like, yeah, a couple of classes are getting absolutely nuked, and Blizzard is probably going too far with these classes. It is kind of crazy. But for a vast majority of the specs in the game, they're not taking it that far. Like, if anything, they're just removing some clunky interactions or mechanics that just make the class feel not so good to play. And I think that's largely a good thing. It's also, when you're introducing a new player to the game, I know, like, we keep referring to the new players, but like not even new players, like even returning players, like someone who has played the game a bunch, maybe back in like Legion or BFA or even Shadowlands, and it's like coming back to the game now. It's usually a pretty annoying barrier to break, trying to figure out all these interactions, and even like key binding your character can be a lot for a lot of these players.
Yeah, I also think, so you're totally right, was very overblown. The whole, I mean, I still get this in my stream every day. They're like, how do you feel about the mass simplification of the game? And I'm like,
Yeah, dude.
I feel like people really don't. I mean, I don't blame them because that's what the vibe was. Like, people were just looking at Fire Mage and Demo Lock and Resto Shaman, and they're like, this is just, the game is just a different thing now. And that's just not really what happened. You're totally correct in saying for most classes, some classes even got more challenging. Like, for most classes, they just removed some redundancies and made, honestly, some of the classes were very good changes. I mean, I did a thing with the community where I got some people on for each spec, and the vast majority of the classes said that the changes to their class were good. Like, the vibes within the community are, these changes were positive. They are a good thing. I am looking forward to these changes. That's very good. That's what you expect with any, or hope for any expansion, right? And I think another issue in the community, and maybe this is just a high-end community thing, but a big reaction I got was almost that simple means bad or worse, or maybe that like more complicated is good. But those things are not, they're not the same. Those aren't equivalent. You can make something more simple and it actually be better. You can have something that has a lot of depth, but at its surface is very simple. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think an initial reaction from people was that, like, oh, things are getting more simple, this is bad. But you have to look at what the game is asking you to do. It's not just playing your class. It's some kind of pie chart mix of playing your class versus playing the content, and how much do weak auras help that. And now those are gone. So you, as far as like actually playing the game, you could, in theory, not even saying they do this, they could mass simplify classes. Again, that hasn't happened. And it could still be just as hard, because what they are asking you to do is do something generally harder in the game without extra tools to give it to you. But your class is easier, so it might still feel just as difficult and maybe just as rewarding, just in different ways. It's the same thing as before, where you know half of the thing. You've seen half of the information data mined. You don't know what it's like to play the new content with this, right? So there's just so much unanswered questions. But go ahead, Dorki.
Okay, no, I mean, you could finish your thought first.
That was about done.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, it's also very important that people need to understand less button doesn't necessarily mean more simple, or maybe simple is like not the best word, because like the best example I can use is like when you have a certain class that has a bunch of interactions within the few buttons, then the few buttons that you're pressing matter so much more. And I use Demon Hunter as an example. Havoc Demon Hunter, like right now, it's got a lot of buttons, so whatever you press doesn't really matter as long as you're hitting a button. Because, like, you know, as long as you're like, because you have so many buttons, it dilutes the effects of the more important ones. So, like, before, it was extremely important that you press your Blade Dance on cooldown. So, if you want to look at a really good Demon Hunter, or like, you know, if you want to look at like Evade compared to just like some average Demon Hunter, well, like, they're only hitting the same 5 buttons, right? Like, what makes the difference between Evade and that person? Well, it's because Evade's getting so many more Blade Dance casts, and he's like getting his priority down so much more. He's getting so much better uptime. It becomes so much more important that you're hitting those buttons when you have only a few of them. It puts so much more emphasis on it. And I see that a lot when I'm playing, once again, Fellowship, and even like Blue Protocol, which we will talk about later. But like, ever since like playing these other games, like really shines a light on this whole situation. And yeah, so I was also going to talk about the whole button pruning. Like I'm a huge fan of them trying to take away some defensives and CCs, because that's actually like the bigger part of this whole thing. Like taking away CCs from classes is so important. It's been so annoying playing this game with 10 different AoE stops in your group. And like, because you have all these tools, you're expected to use them all. I don't know, like Meeres, I want to hear your take on this, especially because, you know, you are that M+ guy, so like you're probably aware of how important it is exactly for your group to play perfectly around having DB, Blast Wave, Mass Poly, Grip, Silence, Fierce Sigil, Roar, Typhoon, and fucking the list goes on. Like that's only like half of them too.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely, I think it goes a little bit hand in hand. Like you said, it makes it so the add-ons going away, or like not having the option to track all these things, also comes hand in hand that you want to remove these things to not force people to be somehow able to track them, or somehow like make it worse for everyone to play, because in reality, like pugging with like vigorous and stuff, you can see everything, you can see what other people press, is pretty doable right now, I guess I would say. But if I would go right now, no vigorous, like we said earlier, and you would pug, no tracking at all, everyone just sends random stops here and there because they have like 10 stops, everyone. It obviously would be kind of horrible. And now with the new expansion, you have less of them. They are maybe more limited, fits the gameplay more, and makes it also nicer to play. So I think it would probably be quite nice. I still think that the main issue is that it all comes down to how the, especially dungeon design is. Because if Blizzard thinks, like sometimes they also say the dungeons are designed that you don't need that many stops, but then in the end, in the high level gameplay or whatever, if you push high keys or whatever, you pull so many mobs at one point that you just need all the stops, and then it kind of goes out of the window that they say, oh, you only need like 1-2 kicks per pack, because then you pull 6 packs and then it's just all in, like, then you all goes downhill and you need to AoE stop again all the time, right? Maybe not possible anymore, of course, with the tool, like with the tools removed, but still, I think it's always very difficult, like hard for them to do these things. But I think they have had a good shift in mentality on mob design, where most of the mobs have now this I mean, I don't know how it's actually called, but I always call it like the AI tech or whatever, where when you pull 3 mobs together, they normally cast at the same time, and then they stagger their cast 1-1. So you can make it easy to assign, like I always take first cast, second cast, third cast or whatever, and you can actually play with your group around these things. Where in the past you pulled 3 mobs at the same time, they all casted at the same time, and then you had 3 guys kicking the same target, and it was all over. So I think if they keep on doing these things and kind of have in mind what people can do, it will be kind of fine, I think. Yeah. And it's also good to remove things. I agree with that, to follow back up on your point, because I think it was kind of crazy that, especially in raiding, and also in Plus, you had a list of defensives that you were just going through with reminders. Yeah, you had like one defensive here, 20 seconds later, next defenders. Then, I mean, mages especially was a great example. You had so many defensives that you basically, every single mechanic was a defensive. And then sometimes you hear in voice when we speak about the raid cooldowns or whatever, and the mages are like, yeah, here. And then, I don't know, the shaman says, yeah, guys, I have like a shitty totem here and one astro shift, like, at like one mechanic, but the mage has defenses for everything. So, like, getting everyone a little bit on an equal playing field will also make it nicer to just play encounters where you can say, this is just such a big damage event. Either we need big raid cooldowns or everyone needs to use defensive. And when everyone uses defensive, then we're kind of out as well. And we don't have half the raid or the OP classes, let's say, for Race Word First, having another 15 defensive open and some are just anking or whatever. Yeah. So I think it's overall pretty good to bring everyone a little bit more together and equal playing field, especially on the defensive department.
So you actually touched on a pretty interesting point about like people are just gonna pull bigger, right? Like if is that always gonna be a problem? Like if players
No, I
just
don't think so. No.
okay,
Like
yeah.
like I said, when Blizzard makes like nice AI tech with the mobs casting and delaying stuff, it is still very valuable to have AoE stops, right? I mean, it's current and plus, I think, in a nutshell, where you just pull all the mobs and you stun them, and then they recast and you stun them again and you stun them again, and then at one point you just send the AoE silence, for example, and then they're all kicked. Right. So that is one thing, but I think overall, I mean, it should be fine. I think if they don't go back to old dungeon design or think that people can do more than they're able to, it should be perfectly fine, I think.
But I mean, you're one thing you're mentioning, Dorky, is like, okay, if they make things more simple or easy to understand, you're just going to keep pulling until you come up with a problem that becomes difficult to solve, right? But I feel like that is something that you only need to do to time keys at a certain level where you are talking very high level gameplay, people that are doing this competitively and people that are trying to like do the hardest stuff. But like at a certain point in infinitely scaling game mode, that's just what it is. Like that's what you're signing up for, to time, you know, keys at that level. That there is in some way never a way to get away from that. Okay, you want to make mob pulls have less like group assigned kicks. Okay, well then how do you limit pull size? Okay, you do more tank busters. They just got rid of tank busters to prevent you from that. And then also tanking's like the hardest role of Mythic Plus. Why would you want to put more emphasis on them staying alive and have that affect lower key levels? And the reality is like, yeah, I mean, if you're looking to time a key and the pulls aren't doing so much, you're going to pull bigger on a high key. But that's just, you know, those are high keys. I don't know. It's just in some way, yes. If they make the game easier, if they make each pack easier, you're going to naturally ask yourself the question, hey, we never wipe on this pack ever. It's really easy, and we have all of our cooldowns here. Can we add more? That question will always be asked, right? So, the answer might always be yes, or at least you'll try it or something. I don't know. It's just going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think that's how the game should be anyways. Like, that's what makes M+ fun. It's when you feel this pack is no longer challenging by itself. Let me try combining this. Or let me try figuring out how to go even faster. Let me figure out how to, like, do some crazy shit. And that's always been the fun part about M+. So if they're able to achieve, like, in my opinion, if they're able to achieve the goal of just making it so that every individual pack by itself isn't crazy and anyone can do that pack pretty easily, but you're able to just combine multiple packs and make it harder on the group, that should be like the ideal for how dungeons should be designed.
Yeah, I mean, I think good players will always be able to do that. Hopefully, of course, unless they make too hard packs, right? But yeah.
I think we should, to get everything we needed to get in this, I think we should move to, there's a couple other games we've all been playing. We've been playing Blue Protocol, which I don't think we need to talk about too much. Just a fun action combat game that we've all played. I don't think the long-term play of that is going to be...
Dude, I want to talk about Blue Protocol, but actually, this game is like, it's a surprising game. I don't know why, because like, you know, so like first impression is like, all right, you know, it's just another gacha anime MMO game, and it's like, or whatever, right? But like, for some reason, the classes are fucking insane to play. Like, they're absolutely cracked. I cannot keep up with my Shield Knight class currently. I don't know what it's like for you guys, but like, my class has like multiple different procs. It's an insanely fast APM because like you just get an insane amount of haste. And the game has auto battling, so I actually get beat by the auto battler, and I have never felt more disappointed in my life.
That's
I'm like,
so funny.
Yeah, it's like,
great.
bro, this is ridiculous. It's like, imagine if the one button rotation that you have in World of Warcraft is just like almost optimal. Yeah, it's just like fucking it plays extremely quickly, it reacts to procs extremely well, and it maintains the buffs. It's like, bro, this game is
more importantly,
fried.
in WoW, you would have full control of your character while that's happening, and so you would just play so much better by having it. But I mean, obviously at a high level, that's not... It would be really bad if that's what it was like in WoW, right?
Yeah.
Insanely bad. But in that game, at least, you're like, it's doing the things for you, but it's also like animation locking you by doing all of the abilities. Like my class in that game, it doesn't feel as coggy loady, and I can definitely beat the like auto battle thing because it just uses things randomly. At least for my class, it isn't as good. But like my class is just permanently in the air. Every time you use your generator, you end in the air, which means you can dodge every single like damage event in the game that's like a reticle on the ground if you time it right. But if you don't, you're just dying to everything in the game. So there's like some fun combat in just making sure you dodge every mechanic basically, or you just instantly die. Is like really intense and kind of fun. Yeah.
And it's really cool too, because like the game only has like 7 buttons or so. So it's not like we were talking about how like WoW has like 30 buttons, and this game only has like 7 of them.
Yeah. No, my class is also not that difficult, I think. Or I mean, it has a little bit depth to it, but I'm not too crazy on it. And my auto battle is very not so nice on the resource management, because I have like comp points I need to stack up, and then I use my energy, and the auto battle is just insta sending all energy.
Dumb as hell. Yeah,
and then
yeah,
I
some
just
of them
like
are so
really
dumb.
swing, which is not the worst, but I think I could definitely I can definitely play more optim myself. Yeah. No, but I can also say, I mean, I think the combat, like we will see how the end game is. I'm interested in that, I guess, because we don't even have all talent points yet. I think we have like 3 more to go, or 5 more, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think the end game or the bosses or whatever, I watched like a review on the grade coming out. Apparently there's a boss coming out in like 6 days or 7 days or whatever. That should be very difficult. I don't know. There's like some puzzle in a boss. I got spoiled on that, sadly. But yeah, apparently that's the thing there is. So, I mean, it might be interesting because it's also 10 to 20 man, I think. So it seems interesting, at least the end game. I don't know.
Oh,
but,
interesting.
Yeah. Well, and the animation locking is crazy sometimes. Yeah. Like when I press my ult, I just stand still for 2 seconds, and then you spawn out of the flash screen and you see stand in a fat cone, and you're like, okay, I guess it's over.
It's so, yeah, they take so many steps towards making the game feel a certain way where the gameplay takes a hit. Like when you press your ult, like every single class in the game literally like you lose sight of your character. You are stuck for like a second, and you see some crazy epic
Yeah, you got mad aura.
animation. Yeah, you have crazy aura, but like I just can't wait to do that and then just die. Like it would.
Yeah, it
but I
is.
mean-
Or
Yeah,
the
it'll
or the
be
group
interesting.
disappears. Yeah, I did like a boss earlier today, and then I just pressed the ult, and then the boss flew away, and I come out of the ult, and my guys are just flying up in the sky, and I'm like, okay, nice. So that was very interesting.
Yeah, by the way, low key, auto battling would go hard in World of Warcraft. I know that's a hot take. It's gonna sound very spicy, but I swear it's like it would be so useful to have this shit for easy content. Like if I'm just trying to like just breeze through a delve and like not think about it at all, like I just want to be able to just like AFK that shit. Like I'm not even really playing the game anyways when I'm doing a delve, you know, just like let me fucking just auto do that shit while I like.
I think that's a tank privilege. Every time I say that as well, I get fucking stoned, and everyone's saying, "Oh, as a DPS, I need to fight so much," and then as a tank, you just
That probably is true.
just
Yeah,
chilling.
yeah. I mean, some classes are terribly balanced in delve.
Yeah.
Also, one thing that's cool about the game is like I mean a lot of people hear like mobile MMO and they're immediately like, no, I don't want to play that. I feel like the way this game and actually Terrace Land did mobile is pretty good. Where if you're playing on mobile, unironically, in like hard content, you're going to do terrible. Like you're going to be absolutely horrible. It's not optimized for that. Basically, look at it as it's a PC game with good gameplay, and if you wanted to, you could do like some auction house stuff, some simple quests, some like daily stuff that isn't difficult on your phone. Like imagine on WoW, you could do world quests and
Well,
you
people
could
do that
walk
shit
around
on
in your
like Steam
character.
Deck.
And
Yeah.
oh yeah, maybe you could do it on Steam. Yeah, but basically that's the extent of it being mobile is just that. And I think that's just like a positive thing, right? Like if World of Warcraft had an app on your phone where you could log into your character and walk around and do stuff. You know, people will often mention like the Garrison app and stuff like that. It's not that. Like you could literally play the game, but not hard content. That would just be a plus thing. So I find that to be good.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, there are definitely parts that suck. Like I do know, like they design certain things around it being mobile. Like the UI, for example, is pretty trash.
Yeah,
There are
going
certain
through
elements. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. Finding
seeing
some
a million,
things.
yeah, seeing a million like red update dots as like a million things you should click and you have notifications. Like if you're someone where it bothers you if notifications are on your screen, like oh my god, it's so bad.
Yeah, I always get rid of them. I log in and then you spend 2 minutes clicking through the menu, getting rid of the red dots. Yeah. Oh, here daily, there daily. Oh my. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, so
And then also, were you going to go to Fellowship, Dorky?
oh yeah. What were you gonna say?
I was just going to move us to Fellowship unless you wanted to
Okay,
talk about
yeah.
the protocol. Well, Fellowship's also like a new game that's out if people are listening to this. It's like basically someone made a game, indie developer made a game that is Mythic Plus. There's no like MMO leveling. You just create a character and you instantly start queuing for dungeons. And it's just WoW Mythic Plus. The classes are very WoW-like. The dungeons are extremely WoW-like. There are bosses that are just straight up WoW bosses, basically. And it's like you gain some talents as you go. It's like the gearing is like a little different, and then you also it's kind of like ARPG power scaling, kind of, but not really. But it's like a cool little fresh Mythic Plus thing. I think a lot of people have been enjoying it. It's been really nice. I know my class personally, this game has less buttons than like a WoW class. I just think the closest class this would be close to Mara is like a assassination rogue. But this class is like really hard. like to optimize this class, not even counting just like doing the actual content and getting kicks and stuns and stuff like that, like you would need to do in a Mythic Plus. Like just actually like fully optimize doing it is like pretty involved. Which again goes to say like something that is simple doesn't mean or doesn't have a lot of buttons doesn't mean it doesn't have a lot of depth.
Yeah,
It's been
exactly.
pretty fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So-
I mean, I think.
Oh, go ahead, Meeres.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, I mean, definitely Fellowship has shown, for example, the class I play, like the tank Mako, with the
Yeah, I play that
simple
too.
can be complicated is crazy because basically how it works is you have 1, 2, 3, let's say, like 3 different buttons, and they all can combo with each other in different ways. So I can press 1, 2, and then I get like a buff, and 1, 3, and a different buff. And then like I can press 2 and 1, I get a buff, 2, 3 is damage, and so on, basically all different combos of these buttons to combine together, which is really insane gameplay. And to be honest, has been I think while playing the game now and learning it, I think has been very complex and also definitely very difficult compared to like learning a WoW class. Sometimes, I don't know, I've learned many WoW classes in my time. I hop on, you hit the dummy for 2 hours and you're kind of, like at like 90%, 95% of the class understanding, like you just need to then play games and it will be difficult. But holy moly, in Fellowship, like this class, sometimes the combos, there's a lot of muscle memory to be gained. Yeah, many hours or whatever, which is really, really cool. And then, of course, the game itself, a tank is getting clobbered hard. Then you're dying, and then you mess up the combo, and then it just always goes downhill really fast, I think.
Yeah, dude, tanking in this game is actually insane. But yeah, so I don't want to say this game is just another WoW or another M+. Because, like, that was my initial impression, too, when I didn't play the game. Because, like, the only knowledge I had about the game was just from watching my friends play and talking to them, like JB, UMTV and all these other guys. And like that was my initial impression. I was like, oh, this just looks like another World of Warcraft, right? Like, why would anybody play this? But there's actually more to it than I thought. The whole progression feels very different from World of Warcraft. Like the way you do the dungeons, the way your character gets more powerful, etc. It definitely feels a lot more like an ARPG than it does feel like playing World of Warcraft. Because World of Warcraft, when you're doing M+, has definitely lost a lot of the sense of progression. I was actually having this discussion with my chat the other day. It feels really bad because like there is no real progression in keys because like you can so easily get up to a +10 key. So much so that 10 plus keys are the dominant keys being done in most seasons. Like most people don't even bother really progressing from like 1 to 10. But in this game, like you actually feel the progression as you're doing the dungeons. Like you're going to hierarchy level, you're unlocking more stuff for your character, whether it's like talents or gear or set bonuses or weapons or trinkets. And you're even going to get legendaries later on. But the dungeons also, like the dungeons feel very different as you're going through the leagues. Like you get into a higher league, you unlock new boss mechanics, new affixes. You get a new capstone dungeon that just like plays completely different from all the other dungeons. And I think that whole dynamic just like makes the game really fun to play.
Oh, yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's very addictive, I think, because contrary to WoW, where you say you do M+, I play M+ for 3 hours and I get one trinket, and you play one Fellowship dungeon in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and you at least get an item always, right? So you always feel rewarded for doing something at least. And I mean, I think overall the experience and how it is really cool, and I'm excited to see how it is in the later levels, because like the bosses have gained a good amount of mechanics, I would say, already in the second league or whatever. And if they keep on adding more and more, it will definitely become pretty challenging, I would say, especially in the like 4th or 5th league.
Well, you tried that, right, Meeres?
Like I think I played the 3rd. Yeah, I played Challenge. Okay. I think it was called Challenger or whatever. And they spawned some random mechanics that were definitely not for the, let's say, for WoW, more difficult standards, like an interrupt boss. That had like a circle, you need to move out, and during the circle, you need to move together out as a group and soak and move out and in, basically. And I don't know, I mean, that's mechanics that are in the 3rd league, let's say. I don't know if in the 5th, there's a lot more, hopefully, yeah, I guess. So it could be quite interesting.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be really challenging. It's like built, it seems like the game, so it's got that great ARPG stuff going on, but like, there's going to be some, like the high level stuff's going to be like really hard. Which is kind of fun because like I feel like something maybe some people were looking for in this has the first like Mythic Plus solo queue kind of thing going on. But man, I did a little bit of that last night off stream. Even in the second, I'm only in the second thing, Adept. It is it's so much harder in a pug. This is totally like not a surprise, but like if you're playing in an organized group of people, it's just way easier, which is maybe always going to be the case in anything in Mythic Plus, to where like I don't know what the experience in this game is going to be like for someone who's actually slamming pugs, does not have people to queue with. I feel like it would be so much worse than what I've been doing.
Yeah, this game, I was saying this yesterday. I was saying how this game might be too challenging for casual players. Now,
yeah,
I don't entirely know yet. So like, first of all, like I actually respect that a lot from the developers of Fellowship, like the fact that they're willing to make this game actually brutal for hardcore players. But I do worry a little bit about how it'll be for the casual players, because like, or maybe it's just because I'm too used to WoW having such casual content. Like when I think of WoW casual content, I think of just like fucking delves and shit like that, right? But like this game starts you off in pretty hard content. So I pugged the first dungeon in the ranked mode, contender, whatever the hell it's called. And it was literally the first dungeon on a new character, right? I was playing Velvet Tank, Helena, and I've never played her before. It was like, and we were getting absolutely smashed. We actually depleted the very first dungeon I did in a pug. So I'm just like imagining like how is this going to end up for people who are just like normally playing World of Warcraft at a pretty casual level. But on the other hand, I thought about it more. Like maybe it'll just end up being like Elden Ring. So like you know how in Elden Ring the game is like pretty insane. Like the bosses do crazy shit. Except you could just plow through the entire game by just having an insanely OP character, right? Like you can just outgear stuff, you can farm a ton of stuff, you can
do
get
summons.
you can do summons, you can get magic, you can do like so many different things, right? But I feel like this game kind of has that. Like you could just farm to the point where you just beat all the content fairly easily. But I could be wrong. Like that's just how it feels.
At least
right now.
until Eternal, in which case it's just right. That's just infinitely scaling dungeons at some point, and then that's going to be the same thing as WoW, right? Where just at a certain point you're going to have to be in the right kind of group with the right kind of characters, or have the right kind of coordination, or else you're just going to be, spinning your wheels, which is again probably completely unavoidable in a game like this. That's just exactly how it. Anytime you go infinite, it's going to end up being like that.
Yeah, it does seem like that's going to be a pretty long way to go, though. Like you have to have at least like 200 hours of gameplay, I would imagine. Maybe less, maybe like 100 hours of gameplay.
I think there's people in Eternal right now.
Yeah,
but those guys
did yesterday.
Yeah, those guys have gone like mega hard though. Those like are people who have like played beta and they have like 50 hours already, even though the game's been out for 2 days.
Oh, probably way longer. Yeah, like I know of people that have played the previous test or whoever for like 180 hours plus already. So there's definitely people that have no life the tests and whatever, and are probably also the ones blasting right now the game, which I mean is understandable, right? But yeah,
it is a
for me. I don't feel the need to do that because I do. You keep mentioning ARPG, but like something like I know with ARPGs, love them by the way, but when they come out like a couple times a WoW season, I'm gonna log in. I know how long I have to enjoy that game. In Diablo terms, which is maybe the most simple and like relatable way for people listening to a WoW podcast to relate to, I know as soon as I get my full build for my guys and I get like the uber uniques I need, like the final chase item, as soon as I'm like at full power and I'm not really farming for any upgrades, I'm 100% quitting within like 10 minutes. That's I know that's the end point, but I'm going to enjoy every single minute up until that point, and I look forward to it coming out every time. This is kind of like that, I feel like, where at least for me, if there's a new fellowship season 2 or 3 months after a WoW expansion, WoW season comes out, I'm going to be locked in for that amount of time, but I don't feel the need to grind it because I know as soon as I hit the point, when I hit Eternal, guaranteed I'm quitting. Like I just, it'd be the same thing as Mythic Plus now. If you achieve somewhat mastery in the dungeons you're doing and you have fun doing them, you feel like, okay, I've had to like figure out my defensives to where I live. I've had to like play my character really well to do as much damage as I can do. And then it's just, I'm going to keep doing that again to go as high as I can. That's the point where it's like, okay, there's not enough new stuff happening for me to keep doing this. I'm going to stop doing Mythic Plus. Some people, a lot of Mythic Plus mains are like that feeling doesn't affect them. They're just going to keep doing Mythic Plus forever. They love it. I don't. So I know it's like an ARPG season where there's going to be that point where I get my uber uniques in this game and I'm going to definitely quit. But I'm going to love every minute up until then. So what, we've played like maybe 4 hours a day or something the past like couple days since it's come out, Dorki. Me, Dorki fired up, and a stream viewer of mine, Laura. It's been great. But like I know that like there's a point where if we were to play 24 hours a day, we hit Eternal, I'm just going to stop playing, and that means I have less days to like log in and look forward to it. So I think it's going to be really nice.
Yeah, like the main questions people have is like, is this going to be a main game? No, I don't see it. I see it as like something that people will play. I mean, it's got a lot of hours of gameplay too, which is like what makes it really great. I mean, a lot of people have been addicted to the game so far. They're definitely at that honeymoon period of the game where it's just like super fun to play.
Yeah, everything's new. No one knows what anything does.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everyone's making up stat priorities. You can cook around. You can cook your talents because genuinely no one's made a robot yet to tell you what's the best, right? So like it's just new game thing with Mythic Plus where there's so much new stuff and it's really fun. But like it's just going to be different in the future, right? When all that stuff's kind of figured out. But that doesn't mean it isn't awesome right now.
Yeah, and I think that's like really refreshing too for a WoW player because like I haven't had that experience in WoW in a very long time, and it's just like really nice to have. And if they're able to recreate this magic every season, that's a massive W. Like I hope this game does well, but at the same time, I also like don't know what type of longevity this game has.
Well, I'm concerned with like, okay, so here's what I think for sure is true. If you have a group to play with and you're already a high level Mythic Plus player, so there's some skills that definitely transfer. Or maybe I know there's a lot of MOBA players that are playing this too, but if you're a good player in a good group that's able to ascend these tiers in a reasonable amount of time, I think this is going to be just like an ARPG season, like when there's a PoE or Diablo season, mid-WoW season. You're like, this is great. I could take a break from WoW for a week or two and grind this thing. I think this is perfect for that. If you are one of those people, it's great. I don't know how true that is for the solo player. I mean, it's hard for us to relate to them in most cases anyway, because that's just not how we go through the game usually. But like, I think it might be too hard as far as them being a successful company. Every successful game is built on the casual player base. Casuals are 95+% or more of any successful game. Why do you think skill-based matchmaking exists, even though every top streamer shits on it? Because the people who are paying for their game every year that are like making the studio profitable don't want to get slaughtered by people that are way better than them every time they log into the game because they would have less fun, right? So if this game struggles to create a casual player base, I say casual, I just mean like, you know, the majority of players that aren't as good that make any game profitable actually wanting to log in because it might be too hard, like you're concerned. That is my concern, is that because they could make this forever for people like us. I would do this every WoW season for the rest of time. I would play a fellowship season for a couple weeks or something and see all the new dungeons. Apparently they might do like 12-man raids at some point. That sounds cool, right? All that sounds great. But I don't know how many of people that aren't like us they're gonna get to actually want to log into this, because it's just, you know, can be maybe too hard.
I think it just needs to be fulfilling and like achievable for casuals. Because I mean, like I use PoE and Elden Ring as an examples of games that are like really hardcore. Yeah, they managed to maintain a pretty large casual player base.
Yeah, I mean Diablo's purely casual. The average Diablo player is just like a couch dad. That is Diablo, right?
Definitely. They just play on the couch. Yeah.
Where PoE is much different. But this game, you have to ask yourself what kind of player is going to be the fellowship guy, the guy who's on Reddit fighting the battles for fellowship. I would say it's actually closer to a PoE player base than it would ever be Diablo, right? I feel maybe it's just because we're in our bubble, but I feel like this game is just crying out to people just like us. And my only fear is that there are people that even enjoy Mythic Plus or have some friends that are logging in and they buy the game and they might just be like, dude, I'm queuing into this dungeon and I'm just playing with some bots every single time and I just can't get through. It's like my progression is so much slower and so much less fun because of that. I don't know. I just I could see it, that being a challenge.
I will say one itch this game kind of scratches is, you know how there's those kata players that are like, oh, back in my day when we played hard with those dungeons, they were hard, and that's what the dungeons felt like, right? Like it felt like you were playing.
These bosses are crazy.
Yeah, you were playing like you feel like you're playing a real dungeon, you know, like because like when you're playing M+, it's like, all right, you know, you're just doing the same shit, but it's just like number go up. All right, it's gonna be harder because number go up, but like these dungeons feel different in the sense that like the dungeons just feel different when
basically the equivalent of WoW Mythic Plus to this would be like every 3 key levels, every boss gains 1 mechanic. That's like kind of what this game is. And at a certain point, there's just gonna be a lot of fucking mechanics, right?
Yeah.
But a lot.
But maybe we should see it in the lens from going from normal, heroic, and mythic. Like, I guess we never really play normal dungeons, right? But maybe that's just what it would be if we will play WoW normal dungeons and then go heroic and then mythic, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I guess we also we don't do this anymore in WoW as well, right? But it also feels very different, I think, because it's such a fast thing. You played like 10, 15 minutes is max, I think, of a dungeon 15. So you just experience so many more things at the same, like every time. And in WoW, sometimes you're shackled to one dungeon for 40 minutes, and you're just hard stuck there. But
one thing that's really cool is if people who haven't watched this or played it themselves, the dungeons you're grinding for gear are trash into one boss, and the timer's like 15 minutes. And then it's the only time you do like a 30+ minute timer 3 boss dungeon is when you're doing the capstone to jump dungeon tiers. And that is something I think is really interesting. So basically, if you're in quotes mythic plussing in this game, 90% of the time you're spending is in short 10 to 15 minute gear farming in quotes dungeons, and the only time you're actually committing to like a really long multiple boss thing is when you're like jumping tiers. Versus WoW, every single time you do a mythic plus dungeon, you are signing up to do that long dungeon. And I think that there's something in there that could be gleaned as like that feels really nice. Like I actually personally, I feel like if every single time, even if you got triple the rewards, if you spent triple the amount of time in every fellowship gear farming dungeon right now, I don't know if I would like that as much as what it is.
Yeah,
I actually really like it.
No,
it's really nice to have short dungeon. Yeah.
I was actually thinking exactly. I was like, man, it would be amazing if WoW had this. But then I was like, wait, they do have it. It's called Delves, except it's fucking Delves, you know? So it's like, bro, like if I wish this kind of what Delves were like. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but it feels really nice to play these like short snippet of dungeons, and it makes the progression feel a lot better too, because it's like, all right, if you deplete the shit with a group, then it's just like you go again, and it's pretty quick to like get it down. Whereas like if you're trying to get down a 30-minute long dungeon, it can be extremely grueling.
Yeah.
Or actually, one last thing that I just before we potentially want to move on is an interesting thing is that they keep you inside the group that you queue in. I guess encourage that you wanna, like, if you have a blaster group, that actually happened to me. I was just pugging, and I went into a blaster group. We all liked we didn't deplete, and we were owning it up, I guess, and we just kept on queuing with the same people. Right?
Yeah.
Which is actually a really cool concept theoretically on solo queue, right? Normally you just solo queue and it instantly get booted out, and then you need to re-queue with everyone. And there is just, if you find some cool people to play with, you just stick with them, I guess.
Dude, I had the exact opposite experience where I got out of the dungeon the few times I've pugged it, and I was just in the group with the same people, and I'm like, I have to leave this group as fast as I possibly can. But I think it is good. Blue Protocol actually randomly does that too. I don't know if it's for the same reason, where you end up staying in the group. But yeah, it is probably something that needs to happen in a system like that.
I had the same experience as Meeres too, where I like literally last night at like 5 a.m. I just like decided to queue a dungeon real quick, and then I queued a dungeon and it went pretty well. And those guys were like, "Oh, yeah, we'll go again." And then we actually did like 4 dungeons in a row with those guys. I think it's like a tank thing, because like tanking this game is fucking brutal, like we were saying. And if you are a tank and you play well, you probably will have a better experience than if you're like a
fan
DPS.
base in the group.
Yeah. So, since we have Meeres here, what exactly is happening with the Race War First next year? And do you think? I'm just curious to hear you guys' thoughts on like how that's all going to go with the new raid schedule. You know, all the little changes they're making to it.
I mean, it's a good question. I think we wish we would know exactly what is happening as well, I would say. Because, for people that don't know, the current idea of Blizzard is that there is a heroic week, as always in the beginning of an expansion. But now they have 3 raids that they split into a staggered release as well, where they release a 6-boss raid and a 1-boss raid in the beginning, together with the heroic week. And then they will release a 2-boss raid, I think 2 weeks after the first raid comes out, which is supposedly, I guess, the end raid of this first raid saga, whatever. This is like the hardest one. And to answer the question for the race or whatever, good question. What is happening? I don't know for the event wise. Like the financial decision is probably very difficult. I highly doubt that any of the guilds will have the people on site for like 4 weeks. I don't think the race can be that profitable, but also in many different facades, I think this is very weird for the race. First of all, like splits, how difficult are the bosses? Like, is this raid just gonna randomly fall over the first one? Or is this like some crazy raid and we're gonna be progressing 2 weeks? and then barely make it into the next raid, like when it comes out, or are we gonna kill it in like 3 to 4 days, which I would assume probably, I don't know. And then we need to do mythic splits for 2 weeks to gear up for the last 2 bosses. Like, I don't know. I have, like, always when I speak about this and think about it, I have very little hope that Blizzard gets the tuning right on this, because this is, I think the Race for First Kids can do some very, very degenerate stuff on such a crazy schedule.
Oh, yeah. And on top of all of that, at this point, this is going to be the first raid like without any like add-on stuff in like a bunch of time, right? So it's like on top of all of that, and we used a bunch of stuff like that for splits. So like there's so much going into it. They said that they even mentioned about the boss difficulty. So the first raids coming out are the 6 boss raid and the 1 boss raid. They said the end boss of the 6 boss raid is going to be like the second to last boss. So think like Mugsy or think Nexus King, right? So like difficult enough where you'd still want to do a full set of splits before it, because every piece of gear would matter insane on trying to kill a boss like that week 1. Reminder that in the past 2 raids, I don't think Mugsy or Nexus King was killed in the first reset. In fact, you could argue that it probably maybe wasn't killable in the first reset, right? For both of those bosses.
Yeah.
So that is, what do you expect for this? Who knows, right? Who knows exactly how that plays out? And then the 1 boss raid that comes out with it is supposed to be like, they said, like a 3rd or a 4th boss. And then the one at the end, like the end boss is at the end of the 2 boss raid. I don't see any other world where, regardless of how long the first raid takes, like how we're not doing mythic splits basically every minute of every day until that next raid comes out, which for us, and I know Blizzard didn't do this for us, they literally said in an interview that the reason that the raid is separated is because of the story, right? It has nothing to do with the race. We're just a casualty of it. But yeah, I think it's going to be pretty degenerate. I actually foresee, if it's actually true, where we do 2 weeks of all day, every day mythic splits to prepare for the second raid, because that's like the one that's going to matter, right? Like,
yeah.
If you win the first raid, it's going to be whoever wins in the last raid, because like you can kind of look at these 9 bosses as just one 9 boss raid, where the last 2, or like the 7th and the 9th one, are coming out in 2 weeks. So like you have to win that raid, right? There's 3 Hall of Fames too, which is like something else we could, like, that's a different thing for, I think, the rest of the community, not really for us. And I think you would see a lot of people quit, honestly. If like it's 2 weeks of mythic all day, every day, I think that's going to be like, or maybe they won't do this again, but it's not good. We don't know how it's going to work, and it's potentially like really, really bad for the race. I also think viewership is going to be terrible, which is something that really matters to us for like maintaining our salaries for players and growth of what we're trying to do. Like I don't understand why people are going to be hyped to watch a raid and then convince them to log in 2 weeks later to watch the last raid. Like look at Jailer. Like when you asked viewers to watch a race for longer than 2 weeks, viewership fell off a cliff, because there's just only a certain amount of time you're going to maintain people's interest for that. It didn't come back until you guys killed Jailer. But like Rygalon viewership was insane. Jailer viewership was actually terrible for an entire week after that. So like, I don't know.
Oh, do you not think it'll be like good if it's staggered viewer wise? Because like in my head, I'm envisioning, something along the lines of like League Worlds, where you've got like the Swiss stage, and then like after that you have the quarterfinals coming up, and then like shortly after that you have the finals. That's kind of how it feels from a viewer perspective, but I guess I don't really know how that
maybe.
But will it be that clear as well? Like because the raid before, I mean, let's take this 1 boss away. I think that 1 boss is really irrelevant. I think they will just randomly die on the side, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's mainly the 6 boss raid. It will still feel like a good race, just a very short one, I guess, like 1 week, maybe like 7 days or something, 8 days, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing is also that like then we do splits, and as a viewer you're like, okay, so now they're doing it again, and then like you tune in next week again, and you're still in mythic splits, I guess. And then like at one point you manage to go into the raid, and then I don't know. Also, the tuning of this last raid, if they're actually tuning it for us, what they do most of the time, right? They tune the boss for us and then they nerf them. If they would be tuning these last 2 bosses for the Race for First guilds, doing mythic splits and farming gear, these bosses, any casual guild will go there and they will just insta deplete at 50% enrage or whatever, and then just leave, and come back 4 weeks later with gear. which I don't
like
think
the amount
sounds
of gear,
cool.
the amount of gear we could like. Just imagine this: like after we finish the raid for the first time, that entire next reset and that entire current reset, you're going to be doing mythic splits, meaning that like you're clearing the raid on mythic, and all the gear is going to like 4 people and then or 3 people. Then you're doing that again for everyone in the raid. You're going to have multiple weeks of people getting funnel mythic runs to and like compare that to the gear that you're going to have if you're just a regular mythic guild. It's not comparable. It'll be the most overgeared anyone's ever been in comparison to other guilds. And like, how are you going to make the either? There's two alternatives. The race ends instantly. We kill a boss before they even log on because we're so weird. And then or it's so hard that their Reddit is blowing up at how inaccessible their content is, right? And
yeah, I think there's also one of the two things will happen. I think I'm fairly convinced. Either like you guys kill it before we wake up.
How can you get it right? How can you? There's no middle ground there.
No.
Like, yeah.
Well, so what's happening with the upgraded track? I actually haven't looked at it at all. Is that going to be like extending? Oh, we don't know.
There was 2 data mining things. Like they increased apparently data mined, like we said, like Mike said earlier, is like that they increased the steps, but then also they data mined yesterday or tonight or whatever. That it's now crest cap is instead of 90, 100, but I don't know. I wouldn't believe any of that until we actually see it in game, to be honest. Yeah. So
yeah, they haven't posted about it themselves. It's all data mining. There's been a million times where we've gotten all worked up out of something without it even being fully complete or seeing all the information. So it's who knows.
I see. Yeah. So I mean, like overall, this is just gonna be pretty shitty for Race to Warfirst.
Well,
is the impression I'm getting.
It's. I think it has a good chance of being shitty, but also we're not immune to other people like other people are to just like being negative and being like, this is how it could all go wrong. Maybe there's like a silver lining of it and it's good. And like you said, it turns out getting people to log in to watch the race for 2 weeks is actually pretty exhausting. And if they can watch it for 4 or 5 days or something, and then take a week off and then come back and knowing there's something else, maybe it'll revitalize it. Maybe it'll be interesting in some way. But there are a lot of definite downsides. Like the player burnout is going to be at an all-time high.
The splits sound bad.
I don't know how our players are going to deal with that because like you have to do it because like you can't just not do it and just lose because then like what are you even doing? So yeah, I mean it's a problem for sure. But we'll see.
It's really weird because then on top of that, like they're also having a heroic week. So and I think every raid race so far with the heroic week was already exhausting on players. Because it's 1 week of suffering into another week of half suffering, and then you were actually progressing the bosses, and then you probably progress for like a week plus. And now we're going to have all of that plus another 2 weeks added on top randomly, I guess. Which, I mean, doesn't make it too nice. At least the projection, I guess.
Yeah, and this is just for us. Maybe this is like good for a lot of people in the game, right? Not everything should be about the race. Obviously, we're biased in that this is the way we interact with the game, so this is how we're going to look at it. But yeah, there's definitely it's going to be a pivotal time in the race. Like it's going to be the most unique thing that's ever happened to the race. And I could see a doomsday scenario where like people never want to do this again. And Blizzard's like, we do want to do this. This was awesome. People loved this. We're going to do this every time. And that literally could actually kill the race. That's the doomer side of it. And then maybe it'll be fine, but yeah, speaking of the event too, I don't know if anyone's having an event. Do you have an event for the first raid where it's not even final? You like imagine you go to the event for the first raid, you fly home. The time to fly home, by the way, will take away from the amount of times you can do the total amount of mythic splits than if you were just at home the whole time. And then what? You're not going to be at the event for the hardest raid that comes out 2 weeks later. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then let's say the viewership is less for the second raid than it is for the first, which by the way I think will be true, except for when it dies.
Probably,
Then you're doing this super expensive event for the lower viewership bosses. Like, also you're gonna have to fly during heroic week in that scenario. So you're there for a bunch of because like you don't want to fly in heroic week. There's too much stuff to do usually. So who knows, man? You asked the question of like how this is gonna go. I think you're getting a pretty clear answer from both of us. So, like we have no fucking clue. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, I feel like there's no way the race can possibly die, right? Like it depends on. I guess it depends on what you mean by die, because I mean, the viewership is there and the money is there, right? And I feel like as long as that exists, there will always be a race. It's just, I guess, depends on like
what I meant by that first of all, I was saying this is the most doomer thing ever. I just proposed a situation that might not ever happen, which is that this is the worst thing ever for the race in so many different ways. And then also Blizzard is like, we want to do this every time, right?
Yeah.
That's the situation I proposed, which what that would mean is that maybe a lot of players, I'm pretty sure a lot of players are like, I don't want to do this. This isn't worth what we're getting paid. Oh, by the way, you can't get paid as much because we get way less viewership now. So everyone's getting their budgets cut, and also you hate this more. Oh, naturally, some of them are going to be like, well, maybe I don't want to do this. You might say the race might always be there. You want to know why the race is popular? Among other things, like, yeah, it's like NA versus EU. That really matters. If both of our guilds had been both NA or EU over this time, it wouldn't be as big. It's a definite real thing. But people know who to expect. It's like, why do people find it hard to follow LTA teams or LCS? I think hopefully they're going back to that now, or LEC teams. It's hard when they change their roster every year. It's hard for fans to get attached to certain players. Something the race has is, every time the race is happening, you're going to see Gingy, you're going to see me, you're going to see Meeres, you're going to see Fired Up and Shaq, you're going to see all these people that you know them, you've heard them, you've heard their thoughts on the game, they matter to you. It's like a sitcom. If you're watching a sitcom and then next season the characters are different, you're like, well, like, obviously I care about this show because I care about the people, the characters you've shown to me. There's a lot of characters in the race where if you were to remove them, there's still guilds racing against each other, but the people are different. I think viewership would go even lower. People care less. Stuff like that is all possible.
Yeah.
Right. So again, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I said it was a doomer thought, but I mean, it is a doomer thought, right? Like if there's like, you're right. In the current way the race is going, how would it ever end? You just keep putting out races. People want to watch Liquid race Echo every single tier. That's, people like doing that. Okay, well, what if it's way different and not as good? People might not, right? So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, also the whole how the hell they're gonna do the final boss does seem kind of scuffed. Or maybe they just don't give a shit about it. Like, that could be a part of it too, where they just like do the same formula as usual, where it's like it's going to be hard for the race war first, and they just gradually nerf it over time. Because I mean, they're not expecting people to be able to do that boss in the first month or even two.
I mean, I would assume that they don't want the boss to die before, for example, the race even begins. Let's say. I think that would be. I don't think that is something that
their
Blizzard
biggest
wants.
fear.
Yeah,
that's their biggest fear. I think if that were to ever happen.
I really think they would probably buff the boss so much that like you guys would go there and you have insane gear and you still can't kill it or whatever, and then maybe have to nerf it. I think that's probably for them better than you guys going there and just fucking slamming the boss in 10 pulls and then moving on. I feel like so. I think it would just be crazy art, most likely.
I think Dorki has a good point though, where like it might be around the same. Like, think about it. How many guilds 2 weeks after they've done like the first 6 or 7 mythic bosses are actually on the end boss, right? They might still be progressing that thing, but there is some precedent to like something new being released and people wanting to go do that thing. To where maybe the solution is like they make normal and heroic of the new raid like very approachable for those kind of people that are looking to do that. But yeah, maybe it won't have too much more crossover than normal, but I think the main thing is they usually tune the end boss to be killed with basically the exact amount of gear that both of our guilds have. And they did that, I think, really well in Dimensius.
It was really good, yeah.
So that's their goal, right? Okay, well, if they were to do that with how much more gear we are going to have than the world 10th guild, the other guilds that you could actually expect to be on that boss maybe in the same reset, especially with an extra week of buffer for them to catch up to where we are, right? Those guilds are going to be significantly less geared, and I mean, it's going to have the same problem this tier, right? Yeah, and we can move off this soon, but I think this is at least a good comparison. What was the name of the Forge Weaver? Is that the name of the fourth boss?
Yeah.
You have hundreds of guilds that just shit on the first 3 bosses, and they're on Forge Weaver at the same time we are, the 4th boss. And there were top 10 guilds in the world, I think maybe even top 5 guilds, that spent the entire week trying to progress a boss that was too hard, and then they never even got the feeling of killing it and feeling great about the kill because by the time they were ready to kill it, it just got nerfed to be a complete joke. And they literally wasted a week of their time. You saw a bunch of takes on Twitter from these people, Relo, all of Fat Shark Yes, basically just like, what are we doing here? This isn't like a World 100th Guild thing. This is like a World Top 10 Guild being like, what the fuck are we doing? Now imagine that's the feeling where almost all of them will certainly be cleared by the time this raid comes out, and they feel like this raid that came out can't even be progressed by them because we have 5 more eye level and are obviously better. Like that's gonna that could be really fucking bad, right? So I don't know. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. So moving on, Meeres, I know you are very big into behind the scenes with race to world first and like behind the scenes with like MDI and like you do a lot, right? So how the hell do you deal with all this, and how has it been to just like not be a part of MDI for once in like the past many years?
Or in terms of like the life or whatever, like I think really great. Yeah, I must say, not playing MDI or basically not having 24/7 something going on in terms of the content that was being put out, like the race into MDI, into prep for race, into because I'm also obviously as an officer, I also have the race prep, so you're omega busy prepping all the bosses, doing all the things like prepping things for the guild or whatever, and then going into the race, and it was just an endless cycle for I think it was like 4 or 5 years or whatever. And now since last year, no MDI anymore, or only to limited capacity, helping or whatever in previous season. Was freeing up some time and making it way nicer, I must say. Yeah, so it was definitely that's why I also didn't play one of the seasons, because we just said it's a health break as well a little bit, just to not get fully caught up in all of this. I think nowadays though the MDI is a little bit easier on you in terms of the scheduling, because in the past it was really crazy where the MDI was starting the time trials like when the top 10 guild barely finished the boss or something, yeah, and it was like the people could barely compete that were still raiding or had to compete while raiding or whatever. It was some crazy stuff. And now Blizzard has been, I think, like a month or one and a half after the raid opened, so most of the people that actively compete in some team that has any chance to compete, I guess, is done with the raid and can actually play. So that's good as well. But also, I mean, it is a thing that MDI in general, or I mean, now it's CGP, right? It's not MDI anymore. Is a thing that just takes endless time, because of course there's practice on tournament realm, but I mean, you can practice endlessly on retail, right? And you can practice as much as you want. Obviously, it depends what you want to do. And it just can eat all your time, basically, for the reward, as sadly as it is. If you're a streamer that has a decent viewer base, you basically lose money most of the time playing the tournament unless you win, let's say, which is obviously really demotivating as well. If I could just sit and have a nice life, like spend IRL a little bit, stream, and then just have like an 8-hour, 9-hour stream day and earn more money, or the same if I would play 10, 12 hours practice and then sweat really hard to win, or just, I don't know, play other games, play, I don't know, fellowship or other things at the side. So,
What are you doing with your time?
Out? Yeah, that too. Well, I saw you went to Japan recently.
I did go to Japan. Yeah, like there was the first vacation in 5 years that my parents didn't force me on, because I got a birthday gift 2 years ago where I got invited to a cruise ship over Christmas with my parents. But other than that, I wasn't on vacations 5 years, and that was a mistake, to be honest, I think. So I enjoyed some vacation. It's also good. No, but I mean, what else with my time? I think actually there's so much stuff that you can do if you're not checked to the PC 24/7, like just fixing things IRL, also streaming, like planning some things, doing some off stream work for example, for Echo in terms of guild management, looking at things or whatever. Just it feels a lot nicer, and I'm not so exhausted in terms of the pressure of having too many things going on, I guess. Yeah, right. Because most of the time it was always overlapping with prep as well, and I was in an officer meeting, and then we were like, okay, MDI prep is starting, so I'm dipping early, or I'm listening to the officer meeting afterwards when we're done with prep, and it was just. It was not an enjoyable time, let's say, which obviously is not so nice for this many years, I guess.
Yeah, you might be one of the hardest working people I know in the whole
that's insane
high level scene.
That's insane.
I actually don't know anyone else that like does all this, from like MDI to race the world first, and you're just like in charge of all the behind the scenes stuff too.
I don't think there is. I'm pretty sure, like, just hearing him describe it, because I knew all of this stuff, but like being an officer in these guilds is like so involved. So like doing that into MDI and having a leadership role in that and creating weak auras for that and being like that and having to do live keys because TGP now is like, it's literally every single minute of your life is like, if I'm not doing something in this, I'm going to fall behind or I could be doing better. And then how do you fit in anything else in your life outside of that for entertainment, whatever, for fun, to relax? Like, it's just nothing. That's crazy.
Oh, it was definitely nothing. I can say, like, obviously also, let's say, doing anything IRL outside of playing the game was not really a thing. Like I said, I didn't go on vacation. I didn't do anything. Now I have a day where I actually spend time away from the PC, which is Saturday always. Wait, today is Saturday.
That's today.
All right, yeah, this is your day
I
off.
would have not done anything, but today, I don't know.
What have we done?
I mean, it's already midnight, so it's fine. No one is awake anymore. But in general, like it is just a thing where if you have a more scheduled life in a way where you can do things a little bit more relaxed, it is quite nice, right? And I think the race prep in general has also been so crazy because, for example, right now, I mean, I guess I'm not doing too much right now, but theoretically, you could also already start the race prep in terms of the bosses. You can read all of them already. They have all models. Like, for example, I went through all the professions. I went through all the trinkets already and all the, like, most of the bosses or whatever. We're just basically already starting race prep. And I don't know when is expansion coming out, sometime next year in like 3-4 months or something. So I already started that. And then you need to assign people and you need to look for it. Obviously, in the guild, there's also people doing some great research or whatever, but it always comes down to especially tactic creation, right? Like the whole officer team. I mean, it's probably the same in Liquid as well. You sit together, you speak about the bosses, you need to look at these things, like, and it's just one thing that I think people underestimate in Race First Prep is that, like, the time you can spend on talking about a boss or a mechanic alone is ginormous because you don't know the mechanic. Let's say you speak about a mythic mechanic and you just think about it and you speak with 3-4 other people about it. You can spend hours. I think there was at one point, I don't know which raid it was, but we were speaking hours about one mechanic. I think it was the portals on Ansurek, like the mythic mechanic. There was at one point, I don't know if Max remembers, where you had to carry an orb over, and it was a tank mechanic, and you had to go through the portals to like negate the orb or whatever as on mythic, and obviously we couldn't test it. And we were speaking about this for hours, how to do this, what weak auras to create. I guess maybe the weak aura talk makes it less time efficient, like time costly now. But especially like the tech side of things is crazy. You just go look at a mechanic and you're like, okay, how do we solve it? You think about it a little bit, then you see it in testing, and you're like, okay, we need to create this week or this assignment list, this spreadsheet, this whatever, and then you just sit there and the hours have perished into air, and then Blizzard next week changes it. So it's all very
exactly.
sad, yeah.
Like, and you need a backup plan too, like for all of that. Like think about the idea where you get to a raid boss and you have an idea and you become married to this idea. It's this great strat. Everyone agrees it's awesome. And then you get into the boss and it just doesn't really work. There's problems with it and you feel like you need to do something a little bit different. You could have just spent extra time basically being like, okay, so let's run through this thought experiment. This great strat that everyone likes, let's say it sucks.
Yeah.
What would we do in that case? And then you have a backup plan. Now, when that happens in progression, you don't have to spend any time thinking about that. You've already done it. And you have something you can go to. You just saved maybe 30 minutes, right? Which is fucking... Did you watch this race? You could have saved 30 minutes potentially on literally any one single mechanic on any boss. And that could have been the difference in the race, right? So, like, he's exactly right, where you can basically spend infinite time coming up with anything because we are, especially before PTR, you are asked to translate what you think is going to happen based on the dungeon journal, which a lot of times there are multiple different things that actually could happen based on what has happened so far with similar mechanics. And then you have to get really good at that. And then you have to do that on an end boss every time, right? So you have to get really good at that. It is the hidden part of the Race to World First that is never streamed. That is extremely time consuming and very fun, I think, for the people who really like doing this stuff, but it can be a lot of work, and you can always do more. There's like never a scenario where you couldn't have had more conversations like that.
Yeah,
I think that's the worst. No PTR. Sorry, cut you off.
Sorry. No.
Wouldn't it be great if there's no PTR?
Oh, I would love no journal. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually something that I feel like you guys were robbed of in a way, in that Gallywix was really easy. Unfortunately, it was like I don't even know how the boss just was like basically a classic boss from 50% to 0. But like how fun it was to basically progress a boss without a dungeon journal from 100 to 0. Because like by the time you guys are on the boss, you know, you just see what we're doing in P1. You're like, okay, we just do P1, right? But like when we were pulling it, especially off stream the previous night, of like, you have literally no idea what the boss is going to do. And like seeing all of that, no journal, was so fucking cool that it was like when I was there for that add-on talk with Ian, I was like, dude, the race kind of got brought up. I'm like, dude, the coolest thing you could ever do for the race is like, and I know this will never happen, but like no PTR testing, no dungeon journal, and like basically the dungeon journal gets unlocked when a guild kills a boss. Because like people are already looking at, when you go to a boss with your guild, you're looking at a kill video before you're going to the boss, right? So like the whole dungeon journal being unlocked later shouldn't really affect anyone, but it would just make the race infinitely cooler on like seeing all this stuff in real time.
Yeah, I think nowadays the dungeon journal is not even that used anymore by normal guilds, let's say. I think we, like at the Race for First guilds, use it, of course, right? Because we need to make a strat based of it. But I swear, even I look like top 5 POV or whatever, I tune into the POV and I look at the tank and I see myself. Yeah, like everything is pressed the same, the reminders are the same or whatever. Or of course, like either we got a pack from Liquid is used and you just look at it and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's exactly the same. They just looked at the stream, how we killed it or how we're progressing it. And that's being played, right? I don't even know if normal guilds that are not doing crazy prep are actually using the journal outside of the Race for First guilds. And I mean, maybe we'll see it again. I think this time the Alebria or whatever the boss is called, good question, from the first 6 boss raid also doesn't have a journal for the last phase. It just says like stage 1, or it doesn't even say stage 1. It says say void something and then intermission and nothing at the bottom. And the normal phase has like 2 or 3 intermissions and 3 phases, I think. So that also seems like it could be really cool to progress. And like you said, on Gallywix, it was very sad for us. We had like, I would say 20% of it self-discovery because US killed it. And we obviously quickly only looked at the video, assigned the things, and then we discovered small things, I guess, that are hard to see from video, of course. But most of the things were so repetitive, right? So I mean, that just showed it as well, I think, how crazy it was seeing a boss, because we didn't progress the boss at all outside of seeing the video. How fast you can, how easy the boss was for a Race for First.
We just killed it in 50 pulls.
Like we just killed it in 50 pulls, and then afterwards, the next 50 guilds, I felt like there were limited, only a few guilds that also killed it in like less than 50 pulls, I think. Most guilds took like 100 or whatever, I think, on average on Gallywix.
Yep.
Yeah, ours was like close to 120.
Yeah, I think 100 was everybody. I saw some guilds also doing 50 or whatever. But it was kind of interesting. And I think, like, if there would be no dungeon journal, it would be so cool as well, yeah? But maybe the prep this time as well, now that I thought or spoke about it, I also think that a lot of time this time around will be thought about how to solve mechanics without the weak auras. Because now we always spoke about, we looked at a mechanic, what weak aura do we need? This assignment, yada, yada. And now we're going to be like, okay, how do we solve it, I guess? And then hopefully we find a good way, I guess. And whichever guild comes up with a better solution will probably win, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be cool, coming up with like the strategies of like how you should be assigning certain things.
I mean, like weak auras are basically that, like basically what weak auras do is tell everyone to do a strategy. Yeah. Now it's just going to be like, you know, players' individual level of like, how much basically the best strategy of like what has the least amount of variance, what makes it easier on each individual raider to do this consistently, which is basically what you were already doing with a weak aura. It was just telling you to do that when mechanics like that actually applied. But I think the problem solving process will still be, because I think usually what happens is they're like, okay, what's the best way to solve this? And then it's how do we have a weak aura to effectively communicate this to those people? Yeah, so I think the problem-solving situation is probably exactly the same, or mostly the same.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It would mainly be how to explain people how to see it, I guess, what they need to do, most likely.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to the Patreon question. So, from Cookie, with Blizzard making damage meters, could AUG be retooled back to a more support class and additional support classes introduced?
No, that's just a bad idea, I think. Yeah. Does Blizzard even know themselves how AUG works in their own damage meter? That is my initial question. We have not seen it, but I would be very doubtful, because I highly doubt people even know. Like, even the dedicated AUG players sometimes question what's going on, I think. I don't know how it is for Liquid, but sometimes the org discussions that are going on. Is this actually working how it is? And then you need to retest it and you test it again. And this is getting contributed. Oh, this is getting being stolen. Okay. And then how it's looking here. And then you test again and again. And you're like, I don't even know this. Like, what would the damage meter change? I guess. Like, what would it do for me? I don't know.
They had a guy working there that did all of the interviews surrounding Og. His name was Graham Berger, I think. And this is my like kind of conspiracy theory, because I know there's a lot of different class designers that work on different things, but some things are like handled primarily by some people. Ever since he left, like the next patch, the meters broke and were never fixed again. That guy just like had the secret sauce to like know how to like literally at one point in time, Og tracking on details and in logs was basically perfect. And then it has just been completely terrible since that guy quit. So yeah, I don't know if that really helps them. It's super annoying. I guess it'll be a lot easier now, because like testing Og before was like, not only did you need to like basically just do sample size testing, because sims are like a complete meme. You had to like decide, okay, well, who would actually be the best people to buff on a 5-minute thing, and like where exactly would you buff them, and then you need to replicate that, and then that's how you can determine their power by like trial and error basically. And then this is now, at least it's going to buff everyone in the raid. Like, yeah, you can pressure certain people, but a lot of that complication has gone away to where I feel like it'll be a lot easier to tell the power, at least within top guilds going into a tier. But as far as like meters, I don't think that really matters. It'd be interesting to see where Blizzard's tuning is going to go from this, because the main thing that's changed now with Og is the difference between the optimized played at the highest level Og and the casual has been reduced unbelievably. Like that gap, by the way, was maybe bigger than any gap on any class, maybe, is someone who's buffing the right people at the right times versus someone who's YOLOing Og. I'm pretty sure that gap in a raid is absolutely crazy.
Yeah,
currently.
I think so as well.
And that is going to be basically completely removed. So, yeah, I don't know. I and should there be more support classes? I don't know. Seeing how, at least from a high end perspective, how they've like the fact that I don't think they have a very strong knowledge of how strong it is in certain situations makes me think that it's probably not a good idea. But also, I know a lot of people love playing support classes, and I know that outside of our area of the game, that Og is actually a well-liked thing, right? Which is crazy if you're a high-end player, because no one in our guild feels that way.
Yeah,
and,
I think so.
You know, like no one in our Twitch chats feels that way. But like Blizzard keeps saying that, and I believe them. Like I bet that like if you're a casual player, you're like, this is awesome. You know?
Yeah, supports are awesome.
So yeah, I don't know. Should they do more? I mean, if it makes the majority of people happy, I guess, but it also sounds like super annoying to deal with from our angle, so maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. It's just because, like, WoW feels very structured. Maybe that's like the best way. I don't know. It's just like after playing Fellowship, it feels like it's got very limited freedom for creativity. It's just like the game is designed in a way where, you know, things need to be the way they are. Like, what I mean is, like, the way you deal damage, for example. A lot of classes nowadays, they're just kind of homogenized to the point where you're just cleaving off the main target. And you need like 45-second cooldowns, and 130s and 2 minutes are kind of like just like the standard now. Or like you'll have some 1 minute classes in between too. And I don't know if they can like ever break that mold because of just like how the game is designed. Because of just like how much is in the game, right? Like you've got solo content, M+ content, raid content, delves, the PvP, and so many different classes and specs in the game. Like they can only make the game a certain way, right, while having some integrity. And obviously when you introduce something like Og, it kind of just breaks the whole equation and makes things weird, kind of just like how we saw it for the first year of Og being a thing, right? And it's like, and a class that actually buffs your tank and healer, like that's not okay. And while in like most other games that would be okay, or like the idea of that being really cool, I just don't know if it works in WoW.
Yeah, I think the main issue I have with all of the support things is that I think it's fine in a raid scenario in general. Like if you have multiple options and you're only limited to buffing the DPSers, basically, it is completely fine. And they could probably make another one. I don't know if they know how to fix it and explain it as well, pretty well. But I think the main issue, especially why Og was also so hated by top players, was that it was affecting basically the best combat and plus. It was just buffing everyone baseline so it basically became the best automatically, right? Which is a thing most of the people play on plus, and you just slap an orc in, and then the tank is 20% tankier, and you play the best tank, and you're just 20% better than everyone not playing orc, I guess, right? Which is just a thing that doesn't work really well. And designing a support that only buffs 2 people for M+, let's say, is also really weird, right? So now you have orc and M+, that is basically only just interacting with 2 people in total, instead of 4 before, which also is class design-wise just a really weird thing, in my opinion. I don't know. So I think the main issue, in my opinion, from stemming from supports is that they're just bad for M+. I think for rating that would be completely fine, but they're just bad for M+ in terms of how it works, because there's always a crazy meta and there's always a crazy healer or tank most of the time, or at least 2 or 3, let's say. And just making them even better is just widening the gap as well between someone, I don't know, he wants to play Guardian Druid and M+. And then someone plays Prot Warrior, which is meta right now, and he also gets 20% buffs by Orc, and then the Guardian Druid is sitting there 50% or 60% worse than the other guy, and it's like, yo, what am I doing here, I guess, right? Just because he played the right class and invited another guy. And I think that's just really bad. I don't know. And now you play Orc and you queue in and you're like, one of your DPSs dies and you're like, I guess 50% of my damage is just on the ground. And you're like, that's great. So I think that's just really weird, I guess, in terms of the dynamic of what it has. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird. Yeah, AUG is I think one of the most polarizing things like ever added into like just in the way that it was okay, it took a dungeon spot for like a year, basically.
Yeah.
That's happened before. Like mages have basically had a dungeon spot for a year. Moonkins have had a dungeon spot for a year. Back in the day, rogues had it for like way longer.
Yep.
Right? Windwalkers in some expansions. Okay, but like it was different than that. It was like the hate was so much deeper than just a class being meta for a year, right? Like yeah, I wonder how it was seeing like all the strong feedback and then all the completely polar opposite feedback they were getting from a completely different community. It must have been just so weird on how they were supposed to balance that. But yeah.
I think it's just any time Blizzard tries to like do something that breaks a mold, something that's just like different from what they normally do. It's kind of like the whole
People hate change.
Yeah, exactly. Like the whole add-on situation or the whole class simplification. Like it's gonna be a polarizing change. In fact, like who knows? Like maybe down the line, the same shit's gonna happen with these changes where Blizzard just decides like, you know what, fuck it, we're not even gonna bother with this anymore. It'd be a very real thing. Anyways. Call it there.
All right. Thanks for coming on, man. I think that's about it. You were a great guest, very insightful on a lot of different topics. Oh, my dog knows it's time to end.
Oh, it's time to end. Oh no, it's time for food. Yeah. No, but thank you so much for having me on. It was a great talk, and I mean, it will be exciting to see whether if in 2 months you speak about the add-ons again, what will have happened. I think that's the most interesting thing for me. That how the development will go. That every 2 weeks there's some alpha build or whatever, where there will be more add-on restrictions lifted, changed, or nothing will happen. I guess also possible. But I think it's an interesting progress to watch from Blizzard's POV. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, Meeres, you're streaming more nowadays, right? So we can always check you out at Meeres TV.
Oh yeah, so I need to do the plug. Yeah, you can check me out at Meeres TV on Twitch. I mean, I stream every day apart from Saturday, basically. Sometimes we play different games. Yeah, now it's time to play Fellowship. I think for the next weeks, I guess.
It has been the Fellowship time.
Yeah, I'm gonna play Fellowship right after this.
W.
All right, Poddios. Pod. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye
bye.